but God brings the increase. And growing up, my birth mom, my physical mom, she would plant the seed. She's the one that, hey, pray before you eat. She's the one that let us know that there is a God. And anytime we struggled, she's the one that drilled Psalms 91 into our hearts. And she was the one that planted the seed. My dad, when he got saved over there in the Tucson home, or the men's home over there in Tucson, and, he met my stepmom, and, God began to allow me to start hanging out with them for the weekends, and I would go with my dad and my stepmom as they would go preach, to Mexico, and, things like that, and I began to they began to open up a whole new mentality, a whole new door, a whole new thing for God, and I was just like, man, I want this. So it was in 8th grade that I gave my life to God. And when I first got saved, there was no fireworks. There was no nothing like that. It was just a regular day, and I was excited. I felt good. I felt peace in my heart, and I remember I must have went to the whole, just routine of life for probably a good year, or probably a good, 8 months, 9 months, just still doing my thing. I didn't have a church in my hometown. It's called Sierra Vista, Arizona. The only time I went to church is when I would go to Douglas with my dad and my stepmom. I would go to their church, and so when I would go back home, I was still doing my thing. I was still cussing with my friends, hanging out with my friends, still doing the whole flirtatious thing, and, I was still living my life that way. God didn't so much do something right away. And I remember it all started, one day when I was in class, I was talking to my friend, and I don't remember how the conversation came up, but he challenged me. He goes, you know what? He was a Christian too. He goes, you know what, bro? He goes, I challenge you to bring your Bible to school tomorrow. And I was in 8th grade, and see, in school, I hanged out with, the popular kids, I hanged out with all of them. I was one of those kids that walked through the halls, and I knew everybody, so I'm like, you want me to bring my Bible? And he was like, yeah. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I was like, don't challenge me. I'm going to do it. And so the next day, I brought one of those Bibles. Those Bibles that when you go to the hotel, they have in the drawers, So I had that Bible. I remember it was a gold one. Yeah, it was a gold Bible. So I had that Bible, and I took it to school, and I carried it. Because he told me, he goes, you can't have it in your backpack. You got to walk around with it. So I was like, all right. So I grabbed it, and I'm walking around. And at first, I was like, oh, my gosh. I didn't know what my friends were going to say, And finally, I just got bold, So when they would talk to me, I would make it noticeable. I would act like I'm itching my head, but I had my Bible in my hand so they could see it, And I kept it, and that whole day, I was getting so many compliments from everybody. Dude, that's so cool, you're bringing your Bible. And I thought, it was opposite of what I thought. I thought people were going to start making fun of me or something. And so, all of a sudden, I continued to bring my Bible to school. I continued to bring my Bible, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to keep it up. Why stop there? And so again, I began to just kind of go through routine still. I was still, at the time, trying to, do my own thing. But then all of a sudden, God began to start moving. I was in 8th grade, and all of a sudden, things began to start changing in my life. All of a sudden, now, it went from just being after I got out of my, I guess we hear a lot of times behind the pulpit, the honeymoon stage of the SWAT. All of a sudden, when that began to end, I began to feel something different now. All of a sudden, I began to feel like, man, this honeymoon stage is over. Because now, all of a sudden, I began to feel God's hand, pressure over my life. All of a sudden, now, I began to get burdened. All of a sudden, now, when I would begin to pray, because God challenged me, He said, you know what, start reading your Bible. Read 3 chapters a day. Because, again, I wasn't going to church at the time. Start reading 3 chapters in the morning and 3 chapters before you go to bed. And so I was like, okay. 8th grade, I used to go home and read my Bible, 3 chapters. I remember when school would end at 3:45, I would get home by about 4. And I remember there would be so many times when I would get home, and after saying hi to my family and doing whatever, I would go in my back room and I would read my Bible and pray. I wouldn't come out till midnight. And I remember God would keep me in that room, and all of a sudden, man, my mentality began to mature. And it was during that time when God began to really speak to me. And He began to tell me, look, and He began to show me how I was going to preach, in front of a crowd of youth, and I was like, there's no way, not me, I can't do it, but I began to get excited at the same time. I began to get excited, and He used to, I used to tell the guys in the home that God was like my men's home director, because the whole time, when I was in class, when I was at work, when I was not at work, but at home, God would sit there and speak to me, and He would tell me when I would begin to do things that I used to do when I first got saved, I couldn't do it no more. I couldn't